here.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Preston County Commission. Today is January 17th, 2023. It is 9:30 and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show that all three commissioners are present. Commissioner Smith, Commissioner Thomas, and Commissioner Stone. And that brings us to recognition of the public. And today we have our Economic Development Authority Director. She signed up under our public. And has something she'd like to say.
What you got for us, Robbie?
I do. So several years ago, right before COVID, the governor was given permission by the SBA to petition for counties to become hub zone counties.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, we started working with the governor's office on that. We met all of the qualifications to be a hub zone county, except you cannot be a metropolitan area. So because we're in the metropolitan statistical area, we were not permitted to be a hub zone county. Garrett County is a hub zone county. All the counties around us except Mon are hub zone counties. And it really was detrimental to us to not be a hub zone county. So like I said, for several years we worked with the governor's office on that, and last week the governor finally petitioned SBA for Preston along with 4 other counties in West Virginia to become hub zone counties. It'll be up to the SBA to make that final determination, but I think it's a great step forward to even be recognized and have that potential. So just wanted to share that with you. Helps with business, helps with housing, hub zone. I think it's 15%.
Yeah, can you give me a little bit more information on that? I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, so the hub zone designation gives local businesses in hub zone counties, 3% of government contracts have to go to hub zone companies. And the other way that could potentially benefit Preston County is for a business to be a hub zone business, 35% of their employees have to live in the hub zone. So, once again, that's an opportunity possibly for us if we have companies that come in as hub zone companies.
35% of the employment will be from the county.
Exactly. So
That's good.
yeah, and that hub is historically underutilized businesses. So small businesses, by the government definition, the SBA definition of a small business, so that is like 500 employees.
Yeah, it's 500 or less.
Yeah, so every business pretty much in Preston County is going to qualify as a small business, So I think it's good for us. We've been approached several times by companies who wanted to be here but couldn't be here because they had to be in a hub zone and we're not.
Right.
So I think it's going to be a great
That'd
opportunity
be
for us.
awesome. That's good. That is good.
Thank you, Robbie. I saw that on Facebook.
Take a review of bills.
At this time, I move that we approve the bills as they've been presented and approved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to pay the bills as they have been properly presented and approved. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Yes. Our assessor's office, we have a tax correction list. Good morning. How are you? Connie, are you presenting that?
I am.
Okay.
This is a tax correction for a mobile home that was reported to an owner that was in for 3 years, in the amount of $519.
Mobile home.
Okay, so
51902.
Okay. At this time, I move that we approve the tax correction list as presented to the assessor.
second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the tax correction list as it has been presented in the amount of $519.02. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. All right, we'll move along. We had an appointment at 9:31, but they had to cancel, and so they'll come at a later date. So that will go on to the approval of our minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of December 20th, 27th, 2022.
I will second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes for December 20th and 27th of 2022. Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
yes. And just for the record, we did have January 3rd on there, but those are not being done today. They're not being approved. All right, next up, we have our estate settlement list.
I move to approve the state settlement list for January 3rd, 2023 through January 5th, 2023 for Ruth R. Martin, AKA Renee Martin, and Calvin Eugene Tichnell.
I will second
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the estate settlement list for January 3rd through January 5th, 2023 for Martin and Tichnell. Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
it. Yes.
yes. All right, next up, we have our proceedings and vacations.
At this time, I'd like to dispense with the reading of the PIVs and accept them in the record for January 5th through the 11th.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to dispense with the readings of proceedings and vacation and open court session and enter them into record for January 5th through January 11th, 2023. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
yes. Next up, we have fiduciary commissioner report, 2022 fourth quarter estate status report dated January 4th, 2023, and filed by Woodrow E. Turner, fiduciary commissioner, and we just need to acknowledge that and accept that into the record.
At this time, I move that we accept the fiduciary commissioner's report for the fourth quarter from Mr. Turner. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to accept the fiduciary commissioner report for the fourth quarter 2022, dated January 4th, 2023. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Yes. Next up, we have an unprogressed estate report that we also need to just acknowledge and accept it into the record, that it has been received.
I move this time we accept the unprogressed estates report from Mr. Turner and accept it into the record.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to accept the unprogressed estate report dated January 10th, 2023, as filed by Woodrow E. Turner, fiduciary commissioner, and just accept that into the record. Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Yes. Brings us to our old business. Anything under EMS ordinance discussion today?
Yeah, I do have something I want to talk about.
Okay.
And it has, Dawn, it's kind of, I went down through your ordinance draft that you had. Let me pull it up here just so I know exactly what I'm looking at. I had a couple questions, just general questions. So when we go down to agricultural buildings, so the buildings are exempt. Now, if they're a business, are their employees exempt from that head count?
That is something we have to discuss because here's the thing. If it is a business, that's something we need to acknowledge because it would still have to have some address, a mailable address so they know how to get to that location. If it doesn't, then it probably would be exempt.
Because
That
that's
makes
like,
sense.
that's really wishy-washy because you have like personal farms that are just like mom and pops,
Yeah.
but then you have commercial farms like my dad, and
Right.
they're two different things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's your thoughts on that, Samantha?
I mean, I agree, if it's a substantial, business where they're, doing things involving heavy equipment, and they have multiple employees, I mean, that is a different level
Exactly.
of a, it could potentially be an emergency, and
Right.
it needs to have an address.
Mhm.
So yes, I mean, it does need, looked at, and I know they touch on that, and which one was it, Hampshire?
Hampshire.
Yes.
The Hampshire, is just, is that the one that you modeled?
I modeled, well,
Hardly.
it was both. I used both. And I used their definition of what an agricultural building was, so.
I think when we had prior discussion on this, in one of our work sessions, we looked at it as long as the barn itself is has a physical address of the property.
Right,
Um,
that's what we had talked about before. If it has an address, if it, has an address, then it would be considered, a buildable structure. If it doesn't, if it's just an add-on, because it's a small farm, it's just, the house is the only thing, and it's just very small, then it wouldn't have an address by itself.
and it might be something too that, if we revert back to employees, your number of employees.
Well, that's what I'm
there
saying,
again,
that's technically, would technically be a business if you had employees.
Exactly, and there again, if that's the case, then it would have to be a structure, but it would be built on, not as a standard like the house would be. It would be
So
built
basically,
on the number of employees you
Yeah,
had. So if you had 6 people, it would be how many,
I think we're gonna
6
have
times
to-
whatever.
elaborate on that in the ordinance, just because it's kind of confusing.
And we can even reach out to, their director of OEM, or, we had gone and had some meetings in those other counties, just to see, because it is kind of vague, but if
My opinion on that, if they're a mom and pops and do not have any other employees except themselves, then no. But-
Well, and that's how that's
but if
worded.
okay. But
That's
if
how
they
that's
have
worded,
employees,
you know,
it doesn't matter if they have one or.
It doesn't
20,
matter
We
then.
should build them.
Exactly, because if they have multiple employees and there's a potential that there's an accident and then they're gonna need EMS service. If it's just a mom and pop place, no. And that's why that's how they're exempt, that's how it was written in them, and that's what I tried to copy, was that, so that it's just basically, if it's just you and your family running the business, that's one thing, but if you're hiring a bunch of people to help because you got this bigger establishment, then it's a little different.
And then, on buildable structures, are we doing any kind of discount on seasonal, / camping lots, fishing
that's
lots?
another,
I didn't even put that in there,
Well, I know
to be
it's not
honest
in
with you,
there.
because I didn't want to go down that route at the moment, because it was, some counties had it and some didn't, and I didn't want to put it in there, making the assumption that's what we're gonna do, you know what I mean? Because if, and here's the thing, if we don't put it in there, and then all of a sudden, somebody opens some big campground or whatever, we can always go back and amend it.
Well, I mean,
we have a room.
yeah, we have Big Bear, which is
Right.
probably one of the largest campgrounds in West
Mhm.
Virginia.
But there again, how do you build on that? Because are there permanent structures? You know what I mean?
There are,
Technically, they are.
they are property owners.
Right.
Yeah, Connie,
They
so
pay
let's,
their own, each thing is assessed in Big Bear, we've been owners of.
But-
it.
When you assess it, is it assessed to Big Bear, or is it
No.
assessed to that
yeah,
person?
they're all
already
individual lots.
And there again, there is some stuff in there about seasonal property, if it's a secondary residence, which in this case,
That would be,
that's where that
Big Bear
definition
is-
about secondary residence.
Big Bear is, no, Big Bear is semi-full-time.
Some of them, there's.
Some of them live there permanently.
Well, there again, there's that setup, if it's
Sure.
their primary residence.
Well, we also have campgrounds that aren't property owned. by-
Yeah, like
aren't owner-owned.
Clay Farms campground across from
There
my
are
house,
many of
ones
those,
like
so
that,
we
yeah.
have started assessing.
And I think that would be different,
Mhm.
because of the fact that you would put that fee onto the owner of the campground, and then
Right.
they would raise their rate to
Right,
cover
yes.
whatever
Because
that,
it's
and I think that would
business.
have to go down also by how many lots do they have, kind of like the employee structure, how many employees.
Well, and also that's almost like an apartment building too, it's the same thing.
It is,
If I have an
same
apartment,
concept.
if I have an apartment building, and I have 4 apartments in it, it's gonna be X. But if I got 8 apartments, it's that much more, it's twice as much.
Well, now that I think
And
about
I'm
that
passing
more,
that on to the tenant.
even like a part-time home or a seasonal home, the chances of it burning down
Are
or
the
something are the same, yeah, so, and
Well,
I know that
I-
doesn't directly
yeah.
relate to EMS,
Yeah.
but that's a good chunk of it, so. I mean, I guess that was just another question for me, are we open to looking at like a discounted rate for seasonal or partial, part-time?
correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, like with Big Bear Lake, in general, there's not a lot of in and out in the winter time out there. I don't even know that all the time they keep like those, territories plowed open. They do some cross-country skiing or stuff, different
You have
things
to
in there
remember
and,
that there's a,
different events.
We have different owners assist in different ways there, depending upon what their status
I mean,
is,
I know
or
their
how
main drag
they,
is because there's homes.
how they pull in their campers and how they pull them out. If they pull them
Right, if they
in
pull it out by a
and leave it
certain
there,
date,
they're assessed in class 2, which is
Right.
a reduced rate.
Right.
So that camper is assessed on the property. If they just move their mobile home in and back out for the winter and just, a couple months in the summer, we don't assess that camper there.
Isn't it just us personal for the camper and then real estate?
No.
It's all in one.
Well, then why don't we, maybe follow your guidelines on that, to where if you assess it as just lot because they pull it out, you take it somewhere else, they get a discount rate because their camper's not there full time.
I don't think we should structure it as discount. I'd say as a different rate.
Partial rate.
As a
Well,
different
it-
classification.
Well, that's what I mean.
there you go, I was getting ready to say,
Thank you for
don't
correcting.
assess it as a discounted rate, just say it's a whole different fee structure.
And
Because then there's no question about it, that if it's just a lot that you're gonna use seasonally, then it's X, and it will be at a certain rate, and that will be it.
And then how do you, how about like secondary or seasonal homes?
That's in there, I have to go back and
It is,
look at it, that's actually in there. Because you can't be in two places at once, so is what it's basically going down to. So, but that is in there. I mean, I'll go back through and make sure the wording's correct, but that is in
It's
there.
down in it's on
What does that say?
that part of it, I think that's under, is it under exemption or modification, or what, no?
No, I forget where it's at.
Qualified.
I have to look.
I can find it here, rate changes.
Because we do have people that live in Preston County and have 2 homes in Preston County.
Right, oh yeah. I know several people like that, yeah.
Qualified.
And I believe it's per residence. I don't think there's any
Yeah, there's,
discount if they have
there's
2
none.
homes.
Yeah,
It's
they have 2
because
homes,
There's 2
it's-
places that it could.
because they could be,
Yeah.
because potentially, yeah, buildable structure, vacation secondary,
What
is not limited
section are you
to, that's the definitions, that's in the very first part.
There's something in the bottom.
Yeah, I gotta find it, hold on. Resident unit, blah, blah, blah.
I read it last night, I can't.
Yeah,
I never.
I was reading, well, when you were asking about that home business stuff, well, they're actually in the exemptions are that home businesses and stuff, so that would be for the agricultural part.
Yeah, I see what you mean now with that one.
Yeah.
It's in the bottom somewhere here.
I know it's in there, Hunter, I was go.
That's okay, I just was wondering.
Well, no, I'm
No,
kinda
we'll-
curious now.
We'll get it.
I wonder if I read the Mondays. Yeah, I see what you mean on, section 4, part D on the, like home business.
Yeah, that would fall
Technically,
in
that would
there.
cover the farm part,
Mhm,
you're correct. I didn't interpret it that way. I'm having the hardest time finding it. It's in here. Got any luck on
Yeah, I wanna say though that,
it? It's in here, I
yeah,
just didn't take notes of this section.
Can we just go back and highlight the things that we're
Yeah.
discussing today?
We're
see, now here, inhabitable, under the definitions of inhabitable, this structure would include, this would include all primary residence, any structure that is temporarily inhabited, such as, but not limited to cabins, seasonal campers, or portable buildings. Structures that have not been, that may not have running water, electric, septic will qualify as buildable structure if the purpose of this ordinance is inhabited for any amount of time. So a camper,
That makes it billable.
Right.
Then we're having to put something in there if we want a partial or a different
that's,
fee.
that's what I'm saying. That's not in here. That, if you want to have it at a lower rate, that would have to be added in for that. But that is defining a camper